Ladies,
Get under that
I
screen.
think we'll try to get started. You know, the best thing about this morning already is that I've continued to see more people come in the door. That's really great. Of course, I know you had to ford the rivers and the streams and the interstate and everything to get here, much like Saturday when we had the blowing sleet, and wasn't that wild? Well, welcome this morning to our UMW General Meeting, and thank you so much for coming. I believe that we have continued to increase our numbers for our general meetings since the beginning of 2022, and that's really great.
Yay!
Yes, to see more people coming. Susan Green has done a great job of
Tables are gorgeous.
booking speakers for us and providing good programs for us, so that's really good too. I appreciate her work. We have visitors with us today, and we had name tags, so I hope everybody will go around. If you see somebody that you don't recognize or you don't know, please introduce yourself and chat with them a little bit. Thank you for continuing to support UMW / United Women in Faith. Yes, we have been given a new name, but the goals and the purposes remain the same. This organization has had many names, so we don't need to stress or think we need to flip a switch and change everything all at one time. I'm sure that we'll get there eventually. I think that the new name, United Women in Faith, suggests that we should cast a wider net to welcome all those who share our views, to be inclusive no matter your church affiliation, and to encourage all ages. Here at Church Street, we will be United Methodist Women, United Women in Faith. So, happy to see you here. I have some announcements before we get to our main part of our program. The next book review will be April the 20th at 1:30 in the Child's Room, right back there. Pat Bellengrath will review Gum Moon, a novel of San Francisco Chinatown by Jeffrey Staley. I know it's going to be really good. On April the 23rd, the Holston Conference UMW Rise event called Climate Justice Campaign Just Energy for All will be on Zoom, and you can find out how to get that information from several of us in here. On April 30th will be Wesley House Tablescapes. This is a fundraiser for Wesley House Community Center. It has always been very popular, but last year it could not be held. Was it 2 years? 2 years. It could not be held because of the pandemic, so it's coming back this year on the 30th of April, and you can call Wesley House and find out information about how to reserve a space at a table or reserve a table and find out all that information. It'll be a lot of fun, and there's also a silent auction before the luncheon.
Judy, can I tell them that the funds raised is for the Granny program?
The funds that will be raised are for the Granny program at Wesley House. Some of you are familiar because you've gone out and taken lunch to the grannies and had the bingo game, and it's a group of community women who regularly have programs provided for them out in the Wesley House community. On May the 2nd at 7 p.m. at World's Fair Park, there will be a Justice Knox Nehemiah Action Assembly, And if you don't know what that is about, it is an organization that addresses, help me Pat, various inner city problems, including housing,
Gun violence.
education,
Transportation.
transportation, all of those kind of things. Justice Knox. It's in the paper, it's in the newspaper, it's on TV, so you can Google it and find out about that. On May the 10th, we'll have our next general meeting, and I'm going to let Susan talk about that program in just a minute. On May the 18th, we'll have another book review at 1:30, and on May 22nd is UMW Sunday. I'm still going to call it UMW Sunday. I'm not against the new name, but I just can't say UWF yet. I'm not there yet. But anyway, like we said, we're still United Methodist women in faith. So that brings us up to speed on what is coming next, and then at the end of May, June, July, and August, we take a break and we don't meet during the summer months. Pat Bellengrath is going to share our devotion.
Thank you, Judy.
Good morning. Today in our prayer guide, we want to lift up this mission. It is where some of our pledges go, and it is pledges support programming costs for Amarillo Wesley Community Center in Amarillo, Texas. And I Googled it, and if you have time, do it. It's a wonderful place, just another place where some of our money goes that does amazing things for people who need. And then we also want to lift in prayer Sue Zimmerman, who is with the Order of Deaconess and Home Missioner. She works in, I don't know how to say the name of the town, in Georgia. So it's Dahlonega. Thank you so much. That's it. I never have known how to say that. Thank you. Say it again, Katie.
Dahlonega.
Okay, that's where she works. So we want to lift her in prayer. And then I did pretty much this devotion at the executive committee last week, and I'm going to do it again. I've tweaked it a little bit because I think it's important to maybe talk a little bit about why we changed our name and what that means. And I was telling Katie, for the first time in my life, I got a new computer. I always got my children's hand-me-downs. And so last night I was going to type it in my new computer, and I couldn't even figure out how to open a Word document. I mean, I don't know what it is. So anyway, I wrote it by hand. So I'll learn. Katie said she'd help me. Well, here we are. We have a new name, United Women in Faith. Some of us are sad about the loss of the word Methodist attached to our name. Some are wondering about what is behind this name change. Some are okay with it. And then there are those who are excited about our new name and really like United Women in Faith. So let's think about these 4 words. They didn't choose United Women of Faith. We are calling ourselves United Women in Faith. For in faith we do our work. In faith we love each other. And in faith we make a difference. In faith, all of us together, our strength and our core. Change is sometimes hard. Let's be honest, change is almost always hard. But change can be wonderful and good and life-changing. There are several reasons behind the name change, the possible upcoming split of our beloved church, wanting to remain an inclusive, diverse group of women who comprise United Women in Faith, and our adapting to a rapidly changing world, a world that is full of brokenness and beauty. We must remember that who we are and what we do are not changing. Our global mission remains at the core of who we are, impacting the lives of women, children, and youth. We remain deeply connected to our United Methodist faith and to our journey as disciples of Jesus Christ. We have always been and will continue to be a loving, supportive community. While our name has changed, so many other things endure. The need to connect, to read and to study, to make music, to give our pledges, to communicate with one another, and to always lift one another, and to lift up one another, and to keep Christ at the center of all we do. We can be a little sad about the word Methodist no longer being used in our official title. But we know we will always be United Methodist women in our hearts and wherever we go. So embrace the changes, knowing that as our church and our world evolve, so must we. The way we engage in mission may change, but our focus remains the same, steadfast in the knowledge of who we are and what we believe. Let us pray. God of love and joy, we pray for strength to do our work with energy and compassion. We pray that our hearts remain filled with your love and grace. We pray that with our eyes we see our neighbors as children of God. Keep us focused, Lord, and help us always, always to remember who we are. And may we be an example to all during these challenging days. Shine through us, Lord, so that all we meet may see and feel your presence. Amen.
Thank you, Pat. Well, I'm going to have Susan to come up and just speak a little bit about our next UMW General Meeting in May, and then she's going to introduce our speaker today.
Can you see me?
Hang on.
Good morning. I wanted to just let you know about our speaker that we're going to have next month. I don't know how many of you know or have heard of Bob Booker. He is he's kind of a Knoxville notable. He's been around as long as some of us have been. He's an activist. He has written many books. He's been in the legislature, a councilman. But the reason we're having him, that I want him to speak, was to talk about urban renewal. I think that was at one time thought to be a good thing, but it really wasn't. I don't know how many remember what downtown Knoxville used to look like, but he does. And he will be, he is a wonderful speaker. He has got so much history just walking around with him. He is, he'll bring some of his books as well, so we can purchase those. But just wanted to make sure you keep that in mind, because it's really a topic that that we need to have our eyes open to. Okay, so now to our speaker that's a foot taller than me, Anita Hinderlich. Many of you know her. In fact, she may know more of you than I do. She has been around for a long, long time. When I asked her to speak, she didn't know me, and I said, "You don't know me, and nor do I know you, but I have some friends who do know you. Does that help?" And they like me, I think. But so she is. She grew up in Illinois. Migrated down here. She worked through the Methodist Church in Illinois, Virginia, then here. There's this huge list of things I could say about her. But she has been on the cutting edge as a social entrepreneur, community growth, faith communities, missionary. It goes on and on and on. She told me that she's been in Sudan. She's going to tell you about all that, but has not been there since 2020.
November 2019.
Okay, so and then she transitioned here to Africa, ELI, to Indigenous East African Leadership. She's currently serving in that organization as a senior advisor. Now, she has some miscellaneous fodder that she thought would be interesting for me to share with you. She became the first female president of the high school key club after girls were allowed to join the previously all-male club. I think she gets a big star for that. Her first paid job was at age 16 as a radio host for the Saturday morning swap shop program in Taylorsville, Illinois. I think that's notable. She got the job at First United Methodist Church on Oak Ridge after submitting an interview video where a tree fell on her head. She picked up the tree, placed it upright, and kept on talking. In Africa, she lived in tents, survived a road ambush by rebel soldiers, has been jailed and accused of being a spy by the Sudanese government, and spent time with George Clooney. Now, if that's not miscellaneous, Father, I don't know what it is. Please welcome Anita.
Ladies, it is so fun to be back. I had to give her some miscellaneous fodder because y'all know everything about me, I feel like. So what could they possibly not know? I'll go back to my youth. And Bonita, I don't know if you remember. Oh, hey, my oldest sister's here today. Bonita Davis from Taylorville, Illinois. Yay! As is a family friend that we grew up with, Lori Ward from Illinois. And the swap shop that you mentioned, WTIN, WTJY. Go ahead, caller, you're on the line. And I will never forget when an older gentleman's voice was on the other side of the phone, and he's telling me it was called swap shop, so people could sell things online. And the older gentleman on the other side of the voice, or on the other side of the call, said, "Do you recognize my voice?" So on the air, I had to say, "Well, hi, Grandpa. How are you today?" Oh my goodness, it really is a delight to see so many familiar faces. Not only have I not been on the continent of Africa since November of 2019, but this is my first public program in 2 years. And it's good to be back with people that I know and love and who are forgiving and are willing to listen to me. And I want you to know that Susan, she is a woman of faith, and she is filled with hope because she only gave me 30 minutes.
That's impossible.
Yeah, she doesn't know me yet. But I'll do my best to keep us moving this morning. Just a few little housekeeping things. What you see in front of you is a part of my wardrobe that I wear when I'm in Africa, South Sudan, East Africa. Everything here was made by a local person in a village. And it has been made in an alley in a little market where they set up a sewing machine and you go to them. They have fabric that you can look through. They have pictures, not patterns, but pictures. And you can say, "I would like a dress out of this material that looks like that." And right there in the market, you spread, they take your measurements for the whole world to see. And speaking of, this is a gift dress, the top and a skirt, that two of the girls that I worked with in the village gave to me when I was there during my birthday. I was there and they gave this to me, and I'm thinking, how cute and how little is that? So I can tell that I haven't been there in 2 years because in America you have cake. And I've taken full advantage of that. But I thought it might be even fun to have a little show and tell style show. I think, Beth, you'll come play with me. Come play with me, Beth.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a skirt. So they can make just, a big piece of fabric and put ties on the end. So it doesn't matter if you're little, big, or So you're tying. I'm going to come around here. Dun, 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 and I'll let you tie that.
Okay.
So it's comfortable.
A bow or a knot?
Whatever you want, whatever's comfortable to you. Now, if you're not comfortable putting this over your head, I understand. So you can hold that if you want. Okay, and then
How am I doing, y'all?
she's doing really well. You can take this, okay, and we could do like this.
Okay, it's all right.
Let's see. She looks African, right?
Maybe not. But it was fun.
I love the different vibrant colors that you can
It
find.
feels like it would be really cool because it's probably hot there, right?
It is a little hot.
Yeah. It's very lightweight.
It feels nice.
Mhm.
And so I didn't think I brought any of my attire before, and you might like to see it. So as you go to lunch today, if you want to stop by, try something on, you're welcome to do so.
This doesn't look like it's ever been worn.
Oh, they've all been worn. Oh, they've been worn in fields and dirt and dust and,
I don't know how to fold it back.
well,
It looks
I suppose I could do that.
sorry.
Give a hand to Beth for being a good sport.
Maybe it goes like this. Here we go. Here, you hold that.
Okay, all right. Oh, it's a real thing.
Okay.
Okay.
So then I don't know from here.
The little sheet, we just,
Just
however
keep
you want
folding
it to be, just keep folding.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh my goodness. And then one other thing, unrelated to the program, there was always a really nice woman who was a part of this group and so kind to me over the years. And I just wanted to pause a moment and remember Vivian, who passed away recently. And she was a member of your group and probably was a lovely influence in many of your lives. And so here's a little moment of remembrance for Vivian. Okay. Africa Education and Leadership Initiative, year 16. Can you believe it? 16 years. For the very few people, is there anybody besides Susan who hasn't heard this before? Okay, 3 people. All right. So the first 5 minutes will be for you. It's a recap of how I could even stand before you and talk about an education program that takes place in South Sudan, Africa. Okay, and then we'll get to what's been happening during COVID, where we are currently, and then we'll talk together, have a discussion. Any questions that you have, we can talk about. Does that sound reasonable? Like what you're here for today? Okay. All right. So, 16 years. 2005, I read a book. Here it is, the very book. I spent 3 hours on the floor of Barnes & Noble reading it and finally purchased it after the end of 3 hours. It changed my whole world, but it was the foundation of what has set me on this entire adventure. And it looks a little dog-eared. You can tell it's been around a long time. There is another book, ladies. This is called Disturbed in Their Nests. This is the story of 3 lost boys of Sudan, refugees who were welcomed into the United States of America and educated and loved and purchased homes. They had escaped the war in Sudan that was happening at the time. This is a little bit like the rest of the story. Alefo, that you might remember in this book, and Judy Bernstein, the soccer mom that took in 3 of these guys. The 2 of them have written a book saying, what it was really like to have this very tall, young South Sudanese man and his brothers and cousins come into her home and become an instant family. And he talks about his first experiences in the United States and working at a grocery store, what that was like. And if you are inclined, I would recommend this to you. Judy sent me a message recently that said movie rights have been purchased for this. So we might be able to see it on a big screen eventually, or at least as a documentary on a streaming channel maybe. But so this is the follow-up. Okay, 2005 I read a book, lots of things happened, I met lots of nice Sudanese people. They said, Anita, go to Sudan. I went to Sudan, 2006. There had been a peace agreement because the North and the South had been at war, and finally, 2005, 2006, people from the international community were welcomed in to begin working on rebuilding the country after war. And South Sudan actually didn't really exist in 2005. It was a vision, but there wasn't a formal vote about separating from the North until 2010, and they had their birthday in 2011 on July 9. So this is the lay of the land, surrounded by Ethiopia and Kenya and Congo, Central African Republic. 2011, they voted for independence. Okay, so we had from 2011 to 2013 of what was relative calm and enthusiasm in the country, people excited about what the future might hold post-war. And they were working on a new constitution. They had a new national anthem. I mean, really think about just giving birth to a new country and the hope that comes out of an experience like that. Well, 10 days before Christmas in 2013, we fell back into a crisis. Two men in a disagreement. The president, Salva Kiir, and the vice president, Riek Machar, have very different political views. Salva Kiir is the president. He was the president at the time, and he remains the president to this day. And Riek Machar has come and gone, and he's currently back in the administration. But in 2013, it turned from a war of words and ideas to a war with weapons among military troops and civilians. A conflict broke out at the president's house on Sunday, Friday, Sunday, it was a weekend. And by Monday, there were pictures in the newspaper of both the president and the vice president back in their military fatigues. They'd gone from suits to what they were comfortable in during wartime. All right, so here's a quick look. It's a very complex situation, much like Ukraine or Syria or Yemen or pick a country, and everybody has issues. Specifically, at that time in South Sudan, President Kiir had actually fired his vice president, Riek Machar, without consulting anyone, or anyone legally. And so, hey, you're not vice president anymore. He was a little upset about that. There's a significant conflict between the power and the greed of the elites. It's the haves and the have-nots. There's oil, there are natural resources. Some people in the country benefit from that. The majority do not get to benefit from that economic situation. There were unresolved ethnic divisions at the time that South Sudan became a new country. Cattle rustling, it's a thing. I mean, cows are cash in South Sudan and a lot of East Africa. You can use your cows to barter. You can buy a house with cows. Fathers sell their daughters for cows. The cow is king. a lot of raiding of land. It had never really been demarcated, like no boundaries, no real map had been set yet. So people coming back from war thought that they were going home, but somebody from another tribe may have settled there. And so raiding of land was going on. Resources, when the country was born, were overpromised and underdeveloped. Salaries, so many people in the government had nice titles, nice sounding jobs, but were not getting salaries because there was really no infrastructure, not just physical infrastructure, but for the civil service. Land distribution, arbitrary states, basic services of a sovereign nation, rampant illiteracy, man-made famine. I've learned a lot about being hungry and food insecure, what that means that there's food available in the country, but it can't get to you because there might be an ambush on the road or a landmine or something else that as that food is traveling to you, it may be taken by someone else. And so, gosh, food as a weapon of war exists. There's no unifying of tribes since independence. So, what does it mean to be South Sudanese? Prior to that, you had identified yourself as Dinka or Kakwa, Nuer, Malay, Azandi, one of the 64 tribes. That's how you would identify yourself. But once you became a unified country, what does it mean to be South Sudanese? And we could even say that now in America, there's so much discourse that is not necessarily positive all the time, and we have to stop and think, what does that mean? I love that this morning, Pat, you spoke about the name change. Why is that necessary? Why is that needed? Because no matter what these social justice issues might bring up for the whole church, this group knows that you're a woman of faith and that you want to be united, no matter what gets decided and put in a book, but you know that. What do the South Sudanese know about themselves when they've never been South Sudanese before? So, 2013, things went haywire in the country again. In 2016, for the very first time since I had been working in South Sudan, and I went the first time in 2006, so after a decade of being in country, the war came to Yei. Yei is the city, the village where we were working in education, building schools. And it had always been declared by the United Nations and all the important people that tell us these things, Yei was a safe area. And it was. I would freely walk at night. It was no problem. I always felt, generally for the most part, safe. But it was a part of the country, because it had been so safe and there hadn't been any fighting there yet, it came to our backyard. And our schools were looted. Soldiers came and claimed things as their own. Famine was declared. And people fled to refugee camps in Uganda. So we had to make a decision. Do we shut down the program, pack up our bags, and we'll go back to America and good luck in the refugee camp? Do we work with the government? Do we work with the United Nations agency? What do we do with all these kids that are in our care, and we're responsible at this point for their education? What do we do? Here were the barriers facing South Sudan's girls. Illiteracy, 4 to 7% only were enrolled in secondary school. So we knew that what we were doing was significant in educating the girls of not only our community in Yei, but after a decade, we had students that came from all 10 states of South Sudan. So we had always dreamed of a time when those students in the future, when they were the business leaders, they were the politicians, they were the teachers and the community members, if they had been to school together and know one another's names and are familiar with their customs, that instead of breaking into warfare in the future, they would dialogue. They would be able to say, oh, I remember when we sat together in geography class. And, but hey, so let's figure out what we can do now together to maintain the peace. Child brides, 52% married before her 18th birthday. And children having children, 51% giving birth before the age of 18. South Sudan is a very young country. Very young. Like, I am so old there. It has changed a bit, but it's hard to get data because of the warfare situation, and is it real or is it not? And who does the collecting of data and who doesn't? Anyway, it is safe to say at a very broad level that the congregation, the country is very young, and there are many, many little babies running around with few educated females. So again, we're thinking, okay, warfare's returned, what do we do? How can we continue to help the girls overcome such barriers? That's a real existential conversation about the feeling of commitment and the mission and wanting peace, living in war, being from another country, what do we really know? But trying hard to be a part of the community, and by those of us living there, what can be done? Well, we decided that we would continue to build and operate schools with the South Sudanese diaspora. All of the work that we've done from Africa, with Africa ELI, has been done with South Sudanese. Because we never wanted to be white Americans writing in assuming to know more than somebody else does about their country. We went, we stayed, and we learned so that we could respond appropriately and not pretend to be a white savior, because we couldn't be that if we wanted to be. Provide holistic extracurricular programs, promoting gender equality, helping all the men and the boys learn how to become allies in speaking up and speaking out for the girls and the young women, and realizing that they're not property or simply baby-making machines, but that they have a full brain. And let's combine it with yours, and wow, imagine the things that we can do. We continued 2006 to 2016 by providing access to education. Africa ELI prepares young women in South Sudan to become leaders in their families and communities, engage in business enterprise, counteract inequalities, improve health practices, and work toward improving society for the benefit of all citizens. I mean, that's a pretty big mission statement, but we're determined. This is the first school that we ever built, called the Mukaya campus. Matter of fact, each one of these dresses has a story. And so after we had built the Mukaya campus, it was 2 years after the fact, we gifted the school to the community. Because it, again, wasn't our responsibility to own the school. We got it funded, we got it built, we got it up and running, and then we could say to the community leaders, this is yours now. You are the stewards of this educational facility. And I was wearing this dress on the day we did that. This is the second school built, Excel International Academy. Some of you, I don't know, did Kenneth Wani come with me to a program
I think so.
here? I think he did.
Too.
Who's the director of Excel International Academy, and even to this day is still the director. But he was a refugee. He had been forced to be in Uganda during the war before peace declared in 2005. And he had come back home. He wanted to find his family. He wanted to do something significant. He had never left the continent, just went across the border into Uganda, and came back and said, Anita, if Africa ELI can help me, do you have $5,000 that we can use to start building a school? Absolutely. I will find that $5,000 for you, Kenneth. And this is what he did with it. This is how it started. And over the course of our decade and up until 2016, we rehabilitated. Is that a sign telling me that I'm supposed to stop? There we go. Thank you. Well, hi. Are those motion censored? Is that what? I love that. Hey. Wow, I easily digress. Squirrel. So Excel International Academy, we rehabilitated, we started working with more groups on the outskirts and in the villages. We've done everything from put solar panels up to fix windows, to put in water wells. We did that with the help of several groups like this, and Rotary International was a big part of our water initiatives. Thank you, Beth. And they also were a big help with our business enterprise while we were there, and mentoring students to become business owners, learn how to open a bank account, learn how to do a plan for your business. Rotary sponsored that as well, and I'm so tickled. Okay, these are all girls in this picture, and I've selected two of them for you to just make note of. Mila in the red and Sabila in the white. This is at Kenneth's school. He wanted to do everybody. He wanted girls and boys. So while we had been supporting mostly girls for our existence, who were we to say no? If we really wanted the boys to become allies for the girls, then let's get in there. Let's sponsor some of those boys and share with them how women are to be treated and what you can do to improve the education situation in your country. But look at that. I mean, Kenneth is in the blue in the front. He's young, but he wanted to build schools, and he's doing it. It was really fun to have a 10-year anniversary. 10 years of celebrating 10 years of health, education, and equality. Who knew, right? Just let's go build schools in South Sudan. Okay. People talk about sustainability all the time, but somehow we managed and continue to manage and function as a real organization recognized by the government, both here and there, and do what we can, try and do our part toward improving education. 2016, as I said, the war came to Yei, and we asked the kids, do you want to go home? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go to a camp in Uganda? We didn't make that decision for them. They're young people. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? And we had 4 who wanted to stay in country, but all the others wanted to leave. So we had an extraction of students to Uganda, and we did that by plane, by bus, by motorcycle, by car, by very creative ways and means to remove the students from the situation of warfare. We formed partnerships with Ugandan schools. So that is where we went. Uganda is the country that has the third largest population of refugees. I don't know if you knew that about Uganda. Now, with the situation in Ukraine and the Europeans now, I'm not sure how that works out, but before last month, I know that Uganda was taking in more refugees than more than we do in the United States. And the facts in 2018 about South Sudan, a population of about 13 million people. Tennessee has a population of 6+ million. The median age, 17. Remember I told you they were really young. And the Tennessee's median age is 38. 27% of South Sudanese age 15 and over could read and write. So you can do the math on that to realize that the majority had a hard time with reading and writing. Oh, so here we are, 2018. We still got the 4 students in South Sudan. And we left in 2016 and 2017, and we put the kids wherever we could find room in established schools. Because we didn't have a school in Uganda. It's not like we could pack up our beds and our kitchenware and take boarding school across the border. So we had to go into existing schools. We ended up in 13 different schools. In 2018, we asked the girls again, okay, we've been separated for a long time. You can choose to stay if you are happy in your new school in Uganda. Or if you want to come back together as the Africa ELI family and we'll find a school that will take all of you, you can come here. Some of them chose to stay in their new schools, which I'm perfectly fine with because it meant they felt like they belonged. There's a lot of trauma that goes on with having to escape warfare. I can stand up here and, talk cheerily and matter-of-factly, but none of these decisions are made without a significant amount of anxiety and stress and tears and conversations and more conversations. But the result of this particular was 40 students wanted to reunite in a high school in Uganda. So we found a school that had been built outside the capital city of Kampala, and they had a dormitory with 300 rooms and beds. So we put all the girls together in that location. And at that time, we were providing payment of school fees, the boarding requirements, sanitary pads and personal hygiene supplies, medical care, and individuals, school classes, church groups, like you all, civic organizations, keep these girls learning, nourished, healthy, and safe through Africa Education and Leadership Initiative. What I'm about to show you is some of the impact and results of what you have done in the world. I'm just the lucky one who gets to come back and tell you what you have accomplished. The impact, what we've always hoped to be a part of, is the global movement. These are the global goals set by the United Nations. And Africa ELI has specifically focused on 3 of these goals. We want to do all of them, but you can't do everything, so you do what you can. Goals number 3, 4, and 5. 3 is making sure that everybody in the world has good health, has access to good health care. 4, quality education. And 5, gender equality. So we focused on those 3 areas. Some of you may remember Nima. Let me jog your memory. Nima was the young girl in 2008, freshman year. She and I were seated underneath a tree together, reading the Bernstein Bears. And we came to the word. Do you remember what word she stumbled on?
Closet.
Yes, Janice, it was closet. In the story, they had written about putting things in a closet. And she just so sincerely, Madame Anita, what is a closet? Huh. Well, it comes with it. 3-car garage and a big kitchen, walk-in preferably with a little changing station. I did not say that, but that's what was in my American brain. And so, Nima, a closet is a room with walls where you put items that are important to you. Okay, that's fine. Nima graduated. She's a college graduate, and she's a midwife. She is presently in South Sudan and doing what she can to help young women remain healthy during their pregnancy and have a healthy birth. So, yay for Nima going, what is a closet, to bringing new life into the world. Degree holders. We're fortunate to have several of them. But the 2 girls to your right at the top, Mila and Sabila, those girls that I pointed out in the earlier picture when they were in the bush in school. Oh yeah, they are degree holders right there. How about that? And a chol. A chol is the one to the right. These 3 girls were a group of 14 that came to live with us in 2008, and they spoke no English. So we had to spend an entire year on intensive English lessons, bringing them up to speed so that they could read books, read the text, and hopefully comprehend to some degree, tell us what they were learning. And they did it. They did it. They made it through high school and they've made it through college. And, hold on, wait for it. A chol went from the village to the catwalk. That picture to the left is a chol in the village with her father. And the picture in 2015 shows her on the catwalk at a modeling new spring collection show in 2015. Confident, able to speak to all the producers and all the people putting on the show, and obviously gorgeous. She also, which warms my heart, started her own nonprofit to provide sanitary pads to girls in the capital city of Juba. So when people have access to opportunity, they can do miraculous things. They just need the access and somebody cheering them on. More graduates. 2018 on the left. And here's one of our boys. A funny thing about him, his name is John. We were sponsoring girls in a school. This is back in South Sudan. We were sponsoring 30 girls in that particular location. And the principal had asked us if we would consider sponsoring the top 3 performing boys at that school. Okay, I'm all about compromise. If we can educate 30 of your girls, we'll support 3 of your boys. And John was one of those 3 boys. And I will confess, I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention. The boys always got attention. So I've always been pretty laser focused on the girls and their situation. I got a Facebook message. This has easily been 6 years ago, probably. Madame Anita, do you remember me? My name's John. You sponsored me in secondary school. He said, and I want to be a doctor. Can you figure out how I can get to medical school? Yeah, of course. Okay. I messaged back and said, I am so happy that you want to be a doctor. Healthcare is really important. We don't sponsor college students, but if I learn of anyone that could help with your situation, I will pass along your name. Done. 10 days later, I had an email message from this man named Ken Waxman, who happens to be a physician, who lives in California, and had just created a new organization called Future Doctors of South Sudan. What? And so he's asking me if any of our graduates might be interested in medical school. Yes, yes, I do have. So I sent him John's contact information, and they accepted him. One nice woman in particular from San Francisco or San Diego, she selected him as somebody she was going to get through the whole experience. And you know, we have somebody like that too in Sevierville, who's she's sponsoring a medical student as well. Anyway, John has since graduated from medical school, and he is working at last I talked to him, which was Christmas time, he was hoping to go back into South Sudan. He was working at a hospital for refugees, which means he was serving a lot of South Sudanese people, but still in Uganda. But, ta-da! Look what a little email message can do. And we're super proud of him. Esther. Esther is the young woman. Faith is the baby. To the left is Esther in 2015. She had gotten pregnant while in school, and the government frowns on keeping young mothers because they say that breastfeeding disturbs the rest of the class. So you have to figure out how to make arrangements in a school if you want to have girls and their babies being cared for, which of course you know we did. And so in 2019, there is Faith, who's now 4 years old there, and her mama, who is a college graduate now. What a great role model for her daughter. Now we get to Zahara. And okay, so we probably have about 10 minutes left. Y'all are really kind and good and gracious to me. Zahara Namanda is an incredible story. She became the guardian of her younger sister and brother at the age of 14 because they were abandoned by the father and the mother had died. She graduated from McCary University with a degree in economics, and in 2018, we hired her as a program director. In 2019, she was awarded a Mandela Washington Fellowship. Okay, as in Nelson Mandela. And they select a specific number of young Africans from multiple countries that are standouts, who are the movers and the shakers of Africa, the up-and-coming Africa. And as a part of that, she attended Kansas State for several months, an exchange program. And in 2019, she was invited to speak at UC Berkeley. Imagine. This is a picture that was taken last week. She has nurtured that relationship in the fact that Berkeley has adopted Africa ELI as a program that they support. We're a legitimate organization at work in East Africa that they direct their students to contribute toward. Not necessarily financially, although there is a fundraising group for them now, but through expertise. Like this little group we were talking about, the website. The website hasn't been updated in quite some time, but these little movers and shakers are about to change that in the next month. What I want to do, the Well-Being Club is what has come out of that relationship with Berkeley. Zahara just finished her master's degree at the University of Glasgow in Scotland. Of course she has. She did that while she was still working for Africa ELI. And I have a 4-minute video because I want you to hear her and see her. This is a part of her program that she was working on during her master's. Okay, I love this contrast, but I love how it's just a part of one long narrative. Okay, so I read a book, met some people, we built some schools. You all did that, you made it happen. And it has grown up, gotten big, and a Nelson Mandela Fellow. I turned over the organization July of 2019. She became the executive director. I'm a senior advisor. She can ask me questions about what we've done. But don't you think that the organization is in very good hands, led by an Indigenous woman, well-educated, who can be an incredible role model for those girls that we are serving? How lucky are we to get to be a part of this opportunity? And let me go back, just a closing. Here is indeed, slideshow, the Wellbeing Club and the Board of Directors, who are all from East Africa. Sorry about that funny little thing there. Zahara's to the left. She's meeting with members of the Ugandan Parliament and other women's organizations on International Day of the Woman, March 8th. Africa ELI had a seat at the table for the local Kampala government in celebrating that particular day. And we have continued to give away face masks, to be aware of the health situation, to do our best to keep everybody healthy. 2008 and 2022, it looks slightly different. However, our goals have not changed. The global goals, 3, 4, and 5, education, health and hygiene, and gender equity, we continue to move forward in those areas. And thank you, Church Street, United Methodist, Church Street Women in Faith, for helping to make this entire story possible, because it's not just my story. It's everybody in this room who has been a part of this journey for 16 years. This is what we've been working toward, and this is how it's going. So I love you, and I appreciate you, and thank you for inviting me back to give an update on the program. Pat?
If we want to write a check, make it out to Africa ELI.
I love that question. Say it louder for the people in the back. Pat just said if you want to write a check today, yes, it is still made out to Africa ELI. And actually, my role as senior advisor, Zahara doesn't need me telling her about programs and things. My job really is to make sure that we stay a legitimate organization in the United States, and I fill out the 990 and I send the wires of the contributions, and send them the bookkeeping from here to there, so they know what things cost and what we're getting. So I'm just a little gopher right now as for them, and we'll happily send anything you would like to donate to Africa ELI to keep all of this going. Thank you. Hey, was that 30 minutes? Did I make it?
Yeah, about. Yeah.
You are just amazing. I mean, I was just sitting there thinking, I don't even know if I could book a trip to Africa, let alone go build a school and evacuate kids from one country, African country, to another. You just, again, we just love you.
You'd be surprised. You can do more things than you think you can.
Oh, and we appreciate what you do, and this is why our organization needs to continue. This is what we do. So feel good about that and spread the word. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I did fail to mention one thing that is coming up in May 14th, and I'm glad that Pat had already, I don't know if you said it here or up at Circle, but part of the new United Women in Faith program is what is being called Soul Care. And on May the 14th, at Mountain View United Methodist Church, which is where I used to be a member and it's just up the road from me in South Knoxville, and they are in the Smoky Mountain District. They are hosting a soul care retreat on May 14th. So we'll be sending out more things via email to UMW members and whatnot, but I just wanted to mention that again. But so glad you all came, and wasn't it worth it? Oh, it was just wonderful, wonderful to hear a recap and to hear what the future has brought to your program. It's just great.